Rain pummeled the city streets, turning gutters into streams and the sky into a dark, weeping blanket. Inside his tinted black SUV, Chief Kenneth Okafor, one of the richest billionaires in the country, tapped impatiently on his steering wheel. Traffic had come to a halt. As he glanced out through his window, his eyes landed on a sight that stirred something deep inside him. Under the heavy downpour, a small girl, no older than 6, stood shivering, barefoot, and soaked to the skin. She had a cracked metal tray on her head, stacked with bottles of water, her tired eyes blinking away tears mixed with raindrops. "Water! Cold water!" she shouted weakly at passing cars. Chief Kenneth watched her, strangely drawn. Something about the innocent spark in her eyes and the shape of her eyebrows made his heart skip. He shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, do you want me to call her to sell to us?" his driver asked. He didn't answer. For a moment, he saw his long-forgotten past flash before his eyes. Ada, his mother's cook, the only woman he truly loved and lost. Years back, Kenneth had just returned from England after completing his master's degree in business administration. Tall, handsome, and striking with a charming smile, he was the definition of every woman's dream. But surprisingly, it wasn't the wealthy socialites or high-class ladies that won his heart. It was a quiet, simple girl who worked in his mother's kitchen. Ada, with her woven hair and deep brown eyes, moved like a soft breeze. She didn't speak much, but her laughter rang like music whenever she found something amusing. She always wore a faded apron, her hands forever smelling of spices and onions, yet Kenneth found himself completely fascinated by her. It started with stolen glances in the hallway, then moved to gentle "good morning, sir" with shy smiles. Soon, Kenneth found excuses just to step into the kitchen, even when he wasn't hungry. He watched her peel yam, pound pepper, hum church hymns while slicing vegetables, and somewhere between the pots and pans, he fell hopelessly in love. One evening, after everyone had fallen asleep, Kenneth went downstairs for water. He found Ada sitting by the kitchen window, tears rolling down her cheeks. "What's wrong?" he whispered, startled. She quickly wiped her eyes. "Nothing, sir." "No. Something is troubling you," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "Please tell me." Ada looked into his eyes, and for the first time she spoke about her rough life. How her parents died when she was 10, how she served in different houses since she was 12, how sometimes she cried because she had no one in this world. Without thinking, Kenneth pulled her into a hug. That hug was electric. 2 lonely hearts beating like drums. From that day, they became inseparable. He would bring her small gifts, books, chocolates, a golden locket. Their conversations turned into laughter, dreams, and whispered secrets in the corridor. Before long, love ripened like forbidden fruit. One moonlit night, she met him by the mango tree behind the mansion. Kenneth cupped her face. "Ada, I want to be with you, forever," he said breathlessly. Her tears sparkled under the moon. "People like me don't marry men like you. Watch me change that," he vowed. That evening, they gave in to their feelings, sharing a passion so pure it felt like a dream. A love that was gentle, yet dangerous. Because somewhere inside, they both knew once the sun rose, reality would return. Weeks passed. One morning, Ada trembled as she took Kenneth's hand and placed it on her stomach. "Ken, I'm pregnant." His heart exploded with joy. "I'm going to be a father." He lifted her up, spinning her around in excitement. He promised her everything: marriage, love, protection. But later that night, as he told his mother, Madame Cecilia, their dream world shattered. "Ada? That kitchen rat!" Madame Cecilia roared, smashing her wine glass in fury. "So that is the witch who used her cheap charms on you." "Mama, I love her. I want to marry her," Kenneth said firmly. Madame Cecilia's eyes narrowed into slits. "You disappoint me. Me, the Queen of Elegance, mother of Teji Kenneth Okafor, grooming a billionaire successor, and you bring me a servant girl." She raised her hand and slapped him across the face. Kenneth clenched his jaw but didn't back down. "I don't care. She's carrying my child." Madame Cecilia turned away coldly. Over my dead body. At that moment, Kenneth didn't know it, but the woman who gave birth to him had already started planning something terrible, something that would destroy the little happiness he had finally found. Ada's heart raced as she walked home from the market that night, her hands clutching a small nylon bag of vegetables. The moon was high but hidden behind gloomy clouds. The hum of crickets filled the air, yet something felt wrong. She kept glancing over her shoulder, convinced someone was watching her. Earlier that day, Madame Cecilia had called her into her bedroom, the first time Ada had ever stepped foot on the royal-like white carpet. The older woman's gaze was icy as she sipped red wine slowly. "So, you are the snake charming my son." Ada trembled, her knees weak. "Mao, I love him truly. I never meant to bring shame." Madame Cecilia scoffed. "Shame? You already have. But don't worry." She stood up slowly, walking around Ada like a predator studying its prey. "You won't live long enough to disgrace me any further." Ada's blood froze. She left the room with shaky feet, praying it was an empty threat. But in her heart, she felt danger closing in like smoke. And now, tonight, as she hurried through the lonely bush path shortcut, the wind howled, and the trees swayed angrily. Every shadow looked alive, every crack of a twig echoed like thunder. Suddenly, a hand clamped over her mouth. Before she could scream, two masked men dragged her off the path into the darkness. Her bag dropped. The vegetables scattered. She kicked, scratched, tried to scream, but fear strangled her throat. One man slapped her hard as the other knelt on her chest, squeezing her throat. "Shut up, you stupid girl," one barked in a deep voice. Ada's tears streamed down as she clawed at the rough hands choking her. Madame said no noise. "Make it quick," the other commanded. At that moment, Ada knew. Madame Cecilia had sent them to kill both her and her unborn child. Her mind screamed, "Not my baby." Even as her vision blurred, her hands protectively wrapped around her belly. Just when her strength was about to leave her body, a flickering lantern appeared in the bushes, along with a voice, rough but strong. "Who dey there? Show yourself." The men panicked. Someone was coming. In the faint lantern light emerged an old woman, bent with age, her hair snowy white, Mama Uzo, the legendary village healer. She had spent decades roaming old paths gathering herbs. "Leave that girl alone before thunder fire all of you," she shouted, raising her carved walking stick like a spear. Startled, the attackers fled into the darkness, disappearing before anyone else could see them. Mama Uzo rushed to Ada's side. Blood trickled from her nose. Her breathing was shallow. Her first words, slipping from her lips as she drifted toward unconsciousness, were heartbreaking. "Please, save my baby." The old woman, with eyes that had seen too much pain, placed her wrinkled hand on Ada's belly and whispered ancient prayers. "You will not die tonight, my daughter. God sent me here for you." That night, under the sad glow of the moon, Mama Uzo carried Ada into her wooden hut and nursed her back to life. When Ada finally awoke hours later, she grabbed her belly first. The baby was still kicking. Relief shook her entire body. But one thing was clear to Ada more than ever. She could never go back to Kenneth, no matter how much she loved him. If his mother had tried to kill her once, she might succeed next time. With tears streaming silently, Ada packed her few belongings before dawn and disappeared from the mansion, without a goodbye, leaving Kenneth confused, heartbroken, and unaware that both the love of his life and his unborn child had vanished into the cruel night. The early morning sun rose softly over a dusty village far from the glittering city where Ada once lived. Her feet were swollen, her back ached, and her spirit felt bruised, but she was alive. Thanks to Mama Uzo. With nothing but a small Ghana Musco bag and the clothes on her back, Ada started a new life in Umans, a remote town where no one knew her story. She rented a crumbling one-room mud house with a leaking roof and a wooden window that refused to close completely. Smoke stained the walls. Rats sang in the corners. But to Ada, it was a second chance. 9 months later, on a stormy night similar to the one fate had first chased her, Ada's screams filled the tiny room. There was no nurse, no midwife, No electricity. Only Mama Uzo holding a rusty lantern with one hand and Ada's trembling hand with the other. Push, my daughter, the old woman urged. With sweat, tears, and an agony so deep it tore at her soul, Ada pushed. One final, desperate cry, and then came the soft, beautiful wail of a newborn child. It's a girl, Mama Uzo whispered, placing the tiny, slippery bundle on Ada's chest. Ada stared at the baby's perfect lips, chubby cheeks, and peaceful eyes. All she could whisper was, "Angela, you will shine like the angels one day." Days turned into months. Months crawled into years. Ada worked herself to the bone. She started roasting corn at the roadside with borrowed charcoal. She woke before dawn, fetched firewood, sat in the sun, and endured mockery from those who thought she didn't belong. "Fine girl like you roasting corn like a beggar," some would laugh. "Who got you pregnant, eh? He abandoned you, abi?" Ada never answered. She only smiled weakly, her heart clinging to her daughter. Little Angela grew up sitting beside her mother's roasting stand, a cheerful child with curious eyes who often wiped sweat from Ada's brow with her tiny hands. Ada could rarely afford milk or meat, but she fed Angela with hope, prayers, and endless love. When Angela turned 6, Ada enrolled her in a cheap public school. But school fees, rent, and daily food weighed heavily. So by afternoon, Ada carried corn while Angela balanced a cracked aluminium tray on her head, selling water at the traffic junction. "Good afternoon, sir. Cold water." Angela would sing as cars slowed. Her voice was gentle, but her eyes carried an innocence that melted hearts. Life was hard. Painfully hard. Some days they barely ate. Other days Ada cried silently at night, wishing Kenneth could see what she and his daughter had become. But she never let Angela feel that sadness. Instead, she trained her to be strong, kind, and confident. They sheltered each other with laughter, making jokes as rain leaked into their room. They dreamed of better days, cuddling on a thin mattress stained with tears no one else could see. Ada never forgot Kenneth, but she had convinced herself he had moved on, married a rich woman chosen by his mother, and forgotten a cook who once filled his heart with love. Little did she know, fate was waiting just around the corner with a twist she could never have imagined. And one rainy afternoon, everything they had suffered for would collide violently with destiny again. The rainy season arrived with angry clouds and restless winds. Ada had woken that morning with a strange tightness in her chest, as though the sky itself was trying to warn her. She brushed it off and tied Angela's worn-out school shoes before sending her off to class with a kiss and a cracked umbrella. After school, like always, Angela ran back, flung her little arms around Ada, and helped arrange the bottles of water on her steel tray. "Mama, today we will sell everything," she chirped, her gap-toothed smile glowing under the gray sky. Ada laughed weakly, adjusting Angela's braids. "Amen, my child. May God bless our hustle." Little did she know that the heavens were already weeping for what was to come. By noon, dark clouds swallowed the sun whole. Thunder boomed as Ada set up her roasting stand at a nearby corner of the busy junction. Angela hugged her mother tightly. She was scared of lightning. "Go to the junction quickly and come back before the rain starts," Ada pleaded, patting her daughter's cheek. Angela nodded bravely, though her tiny legs trembled. With bottles clinking gently together on her tray, Angela headed into the road. The first trickle of rain kissed her forehead, followed by heavier drops. She started running towards a slowing line of vehicles. "Pure water. Buy pure water." She raised her voice, trying to smile through the rain. Suddenly, a loud screech cut through the air. A speeding SUV, trying to overtake another car, lost control. Tires screamed. People shouted, "Jesus! Watch out!" Angela turned. Too late. The car struck her tiny body with brutal force. Bottles flew into the sky, smashing on the hard road as Angela's body spun and hit the ground with a horrifying thud. Everything went silent for a second. Then chaos erupted. Ada heard the screams before she saw the crowd gather. She dropped her roasting stick and sprinted barefoot across the muddy road, her wrapper flapping wildly. Pushing through the crowd, her voice broke like glass. "Angela! Angela!" And there she was, her baby, lying in a pool of water, blood slowly mixing with mud, eyes partially closed, lips trembling faintly. Her tray lay shattered nearby. Ada wailed like a wounded animal, gathering Angela into her arms. My child, talk to me. My baby, don't sleep. Angela, please. Her cries tore through the hearts of everyone watching. Hardened bus drivers, market women, every bystander. All turned away with tears in their eyes. A keek driver rushed forward. Madam, enter. Let's take her to hospital fast. Ada clutched her daughter so tightly as they sped through potholes. Blood seeped into Ada's clothes as she prayed louder than she'd ever prayed in her life. God, if I have ever pleased you, please don't take my only joy. Take my life and give her another chance. Angela's breathing grew weaker. Her tiny fingers twitched once, then became still. At the hospital, nurses grabbed her away and rushed her into the emergency room. Ada fell on the floor with both hands on her head, shaking vigorously. She remained there even as rain soaked her through the open corridor roof. The doctors tried everything. Oxygen, drips, injections. After what felt like a lifetime, a doctor stepped out. His face was tired, his scrubs stained. Madam, he whispered, voice heavy, your daughter is still with us, but we need blood urgently. She's slipping away. Ada shot up. Take my blood. Take everything. Just save her. They drew her blood. Moments later, the doctor returned with panic in his eyes. I'm sorry, your blood type doesn't match hers, and there's no donor nearby with her rare type. Ada dropped to her knees, screaming, No, 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 that's my child. Please. Desperation filled the hallway when, as destiny would have it, a certain well-dressed billionaire walked in through the hospital doors at that exact moment, unaware that his life was about to change forever. Chief Kenneth Okafor swept into the hospital corridor with his personal assistant, flanked by security. His intention was simple, to check on a charity ward his foundation had refurbished. But as soon as he stepped in, he heard a sound that made him stop in his tracks. A heart-shattering cry echoed through the hallway, raw, broken, animalistic. It was the sound of a mother watching her world crumble. He turned sharply just as a woman in tattered clothes collapsed on the floor, wailing, clutching a mud-stained scarf to her chest. Who is that? Kenneth asked, shaken by the agony in her voice. A nurse whispered, her little daughter was hit by a car. She's in surgery. They need blood. Her type is extremely rare. Something tugged at Kenneth's soul. He found his feet moving towards the commotion beyond his own will. And then, he saw her. The woman on the floor slowly lifted her face, and Kenneth's heart stopped. Ada, he whispered, stunned. Her eyes widened. For a second she looked like a deer cornered by headlights. She tried to stand, wiping her tears, her lips trembling. She looked thinner, darker, and worn from years of hardship, but those eyes could never be forgotten. Kenneth, she breathed, voice cracking like dry earth. He froze. His brain tried to make sense of what his eyes were seeing. Ada, what happened? Where have you been? Why didn't you? Before he could finish, Ada clutched his shirt with both hands. Please, forget everything. My daughter is dying. They need blood. Please help me. I beg you. Those words shattered all the years of anger and confusion sitting in his heart. Where is she? Kenneth asked urgently. Emergency room, the nurse replied. Without hesitation, Kenneth rolled up his sleeves. Test my blood. Now. Ada watched with her heart in her mouth as the nurses collected Kenneth's blood. She paced anxiously, praying. Kenneth's hands shook slightly, his mind racing with questions. Ada has a daughter? Could she be? He didn't allow himself to finish that thought. Minutes later, the senior doctor hurried out with a shocked expression on his face. Sir, your blood is a perfect match for the child. A hush swept across the corridor. What does that mean? Kenneth asked slowly, though fear had already gripped his heart. The doctor cleared his throat. It is very rare for two unrelated people to have this same rare blood type. Sir, We suggest a paternity trace after surgery. Kenneth's knees weakened. His eyes snapped to Ada. She was trembling hard, tears flowing like a river. Ada, is Angela, my daughter? Ada broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Yes, she is yours, Kenneth. I wanted to tell you, but your mother, her voice cracked under the weight of years of buried pain. Kenneth's vision blurred with tears he had never allowed himself to shed. Everything rushed back, their love, her disappearance, his mother's warnings, and now, this innocent life fighting for survival. He didn't say another word. He stormed off to the surgery doors. Save my daughter, he commanded the doctors, in a voice that trembled with fear and power combined. Use every resource necessary. I will pay, just don't let her die. The medical team rushed into action, wheeling in machines and calling specialists. Ada collapsed into Kenneth's arms, sobbing against his chest. For the first time in years, he held her again, not with passion, but with desperation. I'm so sorry, he whispered, choking on emotion. I didn't know. Mama lied to me. She told me you ran away with another man. I searched, but she convinced me you aborted the baby and married. Ada wailed harder, hitting his chest weakly. I suffered alone. I hawked. I begged. Our child starves every day. Kenneth's tears dropped onto Ada's hair. Never again. I swear on my life, Ada, never again. As the surgery light blinked red, they held on to each other, two broken souls wrapped together by fate, praying for one tiny heart beating inside that operating room. Hours felt like years as Ada and Kenneth clung together outside the operating theater, soaked in fear and regret. Every time a nurse came in or out, their hearts jumped, only to sink again. Kenneth kept pacing the tiled floors, running his fingers anxiously through his hair. Ada knelt in the corner whispering prayers, her forehead pressed to the cold wall. Finally, the red surgery light turned off. The doors creaked open. A senior surgeon stepped out slowly, removing his gloves. His face, unreadable. How is she? Ada asked in a whisper, barely breathing. The doctor smiled gently. Your daughter is stable. She lost a lot of blood, but we were able to revive her. You can see her shortly, she's resting. Ada let out a loud cry of thanksgiving, collapsing to the floor. Kenneth picked her up, hugging her tightly, tears rolling down his cheeks for the second time in his adult life. I told you, he whispered shakily. Our angel will not die. But the doctor wasn't done. He cleared his throat. Sir, Ma, about the blood match. I suggest you carry out a DNA test to remove all doubts. Kenneth nodded firmly. Do it immediately. I want results today. Within an hour, blood samples were taken from Angela and Kenneth. While waiting for the results, Kenneth sat beside Ada in the private ward where Angela was sleeping peacefully, bandaged and hooked to tubes. Her innocent face, pale but beautiful, looked so much like his when he was little. He reached out and gently held her tiny hand. I missed 6 years of her life, he whispered, voice breaking. 6 years of her first words, first steps, first smile, all because of lies. Ada stared at the floor. I wanted to come back so many times, she choked. But I feared your mother would destroy us again. Kenneth turned to her, fire burning in his eyes. Anyone who tries to touch you or my daughter again will meet a side of me they've never known. He took Ada's hand gently. I should have fought harder for you. Before Ada could speak, a nurse stepped in holding an envelope. Sir, the test results. Kenneth's hand shook as he tore it open. He stared at the paper, eyes wide with emotion. Paternity result, 99.9% positive. Child, Angela Ada Okafor. Kenneth gasped, pressing the paper to his heart. Tears streamed freely down his face. He couldn't control it anymore. She's mine. My daughter. My blood. My angel, he cried, falling to his knees beside Angela's bed. Ada covered her mouth, sobbing. She had carried this secret alone for so long. Now destiny had forced the truth into the light. As Kenneth planted a shaky kiss on Angela's forehead, he vowed aloud. From today, Angela, the world will know who you are. No more hawking. No more suffering. You will rise higher than every child in this land. I swear to be the father you deserve. Ada wiped her eyes as he turned to her with a promise. And Ada, I will spend the rest of my life making up for the pain you endured because of me. But while the reunited parents rejoiced over their miracle, they did not know that someone powerful had already heard the news. Someone who swore long ago that Ada and her baby would never live to enjoy Kenneth's love. Madame Cecilia. And this time, she was furious, and ready to finish what she started many years ago. Deep inside a marble-floored mansion surrounded by golden chandeliers and antique sculptures, Madame Cecilia Okafor sat on her designer couch, sipping tea with poised elegance. A jewel-encrusted phone lay beside her. She was the queen of her world, feared by many, obeyed by all. Just then, her personal assistant ran in breathlessly, holding a newspaper hot off the press. "Madam, you need to see this." She adjusted her glasses impatiently, snatching it from him. Her eyes widened instantly as she read the bold headline. Billionaire Kenneth Okafor reunites with long-lost daughter after tragic accident. Child born to former cook Ada. A glossy photo accompanied it, Kenneth sitting by a hospital bed, gently holding the hand of a little girl while Ada stood beside him smiling weakly. Madame Cecilia's teacup shattered on the floor. "What nonsense is this?" Her assistant trembled. Madam, the media is saying Chief's daughter with Ada survived an accident and he has accepted her publicly." She stood up slowly, her face twisting in rage. "After all I did to destroy that cheap village rat, she still found a way back. And Kenneth, ungrateful boy, humiliates me before the whole country." Her voice thundered through the mansion. She dialed a number. "Inspector Damien. I need that woman and her bastard child gone. Tonight. I don't care how, just make it look like an accident. Double your price if you must. Do not fail me again." Meanwhile, back at the hospital, peace had finally begun to settle in Ada's heart. Angela was slowly opening her eyes, groggy but alive. Kenneth had already made calls to transfer her to the most expensive private hospital in the country. "I want bodyguards immediately. No one must touch my daughter," he declared. Ada smiled softly as she fed Angela spoonfuls of pap. "See? Your daddy is treating you like a princess already." Angela smiled weakly. "Daddy?" she whispered for the first time. The word lit Kenneth's heart brighter than any award he had ever won. He knelt beside the bed. "Yes, my angel. Daddy isn't going anywhere again." Unknown to them, a masked figure dressed as a cleaner lurked in the hallway nearby, making a call under his breath. "Target is in room 310. Prepare for operation. Tonight." That evening, rain began to fall once more, heavy, fierce, angry, just like the night Ada was attacked years ago. Only this time, they weren't just after Ada. They were coming for both mother and daughter, and the war to protect Angela's life was about to begin. Night fell savagely, wrapping the hospital in a blanket of soft danger. The thunderstorm raged louder than before, as if the heavens themselves sensed something wicked drawing near. Ada sat half asleep beside Angela's bedside, gently stroking her daughter's braid. Kenneth stood at the window, staring at the splashing rain outside, his mind heavy with everything, yet thankful that his family had been restored. Soon, there was a soft knock on the door. A nurse stepped in quietly, rolling a medication cart across the floor. "It's time for the next injection," she whispered. Ada rubbed her eyes and nodded sleepily. Kenneth's phone began to ring, and he stepped out into the hallway to answer it, leaving mother and daughter alone. The nurse uncapped a syringe and leaned over Angela. But Ada, still alert despite her exhaustion, suddenly frowned. Something was wrong. The woman's hands were shaking too much. Her shoes, they looked more like men's boots than nurse slippers. Ada's eyes traveled up, meeting cold eyes behind a fake smile. Her heart slammed against her chest. "This is not our regular nurse." "Wait," Ada's voice trembled. Too late. The nurse suddenly grabbed Ada's neck with one hand, forcing her backwards, as the other pulled a gun from under the tray. "Make one sound, and I blow your brains out," the nurse hissed through clenched teeth. Ada froze, eyes wide with terror. Angela opened her weak eyes and saw the gun pointed at her mother. She panicked, barely able to speak. Mummy." Suddenly, the fake nurse injected something into Angela's drip. Ada shrieked, "No! What did you do to my baby?" The imposter dragged Ada toward the window. "Orders from Madame Cecilia," he growled. "You and this cursed child should have died 6 years ago." Ada screamed louder, praying someone would hear, as thunder boomed again. From the hallway, Kenneth heard the muffled scream. Alarmed, he dashed back toward room 310, just as 2 armed men dressed as hospital security appeared, blocking his path. "Step back, sir," one barked, raising a gun at him. Kenneth's heart stopped. "You dare point that gun at me," he roared. Swiftly, Kenneth slammed one attacker with a flower vase and struggled with the second. Chaos exploded in the corridor as other guards rushed in. Real guards, alerted by the commotion. Inside the room, the masked assassin tried to push Ada through the window to fall to her death 2 floors down. Ada held onto the metal window rail, screaming, her body halfway outside as rain drenched her face. The attempted killer snarled, pressing his gun into her throat. At that moment, bang! A gunshot ripped through the air. The fake nurse collapsed, a bullet between his shoulder blades. Kenneth stood at the doorway, panting, holding a smoking gun given to him by his head of security. His eyes blazed with pure murderous rage. Ada fell to the floor in tears. Kenneth rushed to her, pulling her into his arms, kissing her forehead over and over with trembling lips. Angela was now convulsing from whatever substance was injected into her drip. "Get an antidote. Now!" Kenneth thundered as doctors rushed in frantically. While medics fought to stabilize Angela once again, Kenneth dialed a number with deadly calm. "Inspector, arrest my mother. Tonight. If she tries to resist, shoot her legs. This ends now." As police sirens began to wail in the distance, Kenneth sat on the hospital bed, cradling Ada and holding Angela's fragile hand. For the first time, Ada saw a different Kenneth, not just a billionaire, but a man willing to go to war for his family. "Enough is enough," he whispered through his tears. "No devil will take you from me again, not even my own mother." Outside, lightning cut across the sky like a sword, announcing that a battle greater than love had just begun. A battle of bloodlines, arrogance, and redemption. The shrill cry of sirens pierced the silence of the night, growing louder as they approached the towering gates of Madame Cecilia Okafor's estate. Hidden behind high walls and guarded by men loyal only to her, the mansion had long been a fortress of secrets, power, and intimidation. But tonight, the Queen's throne was about to shake. Inside, Madame Cecilia stood in her room, elegantly dressed in a wine-colored satin robe, sipping red wine and humming softly to a classical tune. The call had not yet come, the one that would confirm Ada and the child had been eliminated. Instead, her phone buzzed. She answered confidently, "Yes." But it wasn't her hitman's voice. It was her son's, Kenneth. "You failed, Mother," he said coldly. "Your assassin is dead. Angela's alive. And Ada, she's safe." Madame Cecilia's glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. "I warned you not to cross me," Kenneth continued. "The police are on their way. If I were you, I'd pray." "You dare speak to me like that? Me? Your mother?" she screeched.